tested trials.
So when your tests and trials,
they seem to get you down.
They seem to get you down.
All your friends and loved ones,
and all your
to be found.
are nowhere to be found.
Remember,
Remember, there's a friend in Jesus
and he makes a promise.
who will wipe your tears away.
Any broken hearts in the room,
And if your heart is broken,
lift that heart up to the Father and say,
just lift your hands and say,
yes.
oh, I know that I can make it.
Sing it with us, I know.
I know that I can stand. No matter what may come my way, my life is in your hands. With Jesus I can take it. With him I know I can stand. No matter what may come my way, my
silence for prayer, for meditation, and for dedication. But please be seated. Well, I welcome you all to this Eastern Cape admission ceremony of the Colleges of Medicine of South Africa. I'm Johan Fagan, and I'm the president of the Colleges of Medicine. On the stage around me, I'm joined by our immediate past president, Professor Flavio Senkubuge, our senior vice president, Professor Zach Korto, our vice president, Professor Johnny Matlangu, our past president, Professor Lizo Mazwai, our senators, our academics of our various colleges, our executive leadership, and our special guests. I wish to extend a special welcome to our guest speaker, Professor Nsalwane, to Professor Nemu Tandani, the president of the HPCSA. I'd like to welcome Professor Keshe, who's the campus director for Nelson Mandela campus. And then I also wish to recognize Professor Dubula, who's the Dean of the Health Sciences of WSU, Dr. Sipeka, who's the Acting Registrar and CEO of the HPCSA. We were going to be joined by Professor Zingela, who's the Dean of Health Sciences at the Nelson Mandela University, but she sent her apologies, but said she would be with us in spirit. I also wish to welcome our academic colleagues from the Walter Sisulu and the Nelson Mandela Universities, and the Cecilia Makawani, the Freer, Livingston, PE Provincial, the Dora and Ginza teaching hospitals, our senators, our examiners, and of course our most special guests, our graduates and your families. The CMSA was officially founded in 1955. Over the past almost 70 years, its role has evolved significantly. It used to be a standalone body that conferred fellowships with which fellows could register as specialists, and trainees also had a choice of a local university M.Med examination, an option which was used mainly by the Afrikaans universities. However, in 2011, the HPCSA ruled that trainees had to write the National Unitary Examination offered by the CMSA and needed to complete the M.Med research dissertation at their local university to register as a specialist. Now, national unitary examinations are considered best practice internationally and are used in many countries, such as Pakistan, in the USA, and in Canada. Some regions have multinational unitary examinations, such as the board exams in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, and the West African College of Surgeons and the West African College of Physicians that have a single exit examination that spans more than 20 West African countries, and the College of Surgeons of Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa that have examinations that include more than 15 African countries under one umbrella. In South Africa, the CMSA and the universities are in a very close partnership, with the universities using the infrastructure and the expertise of the CMSA for their academics to examine their own candidates. Having a South African national unitary examination has a number of advantages. It supports the smaller, understaffed training units that cannot effectively run clinical services, teach and train under and postgraduates, set their own examination questions, and run their own specialist examinations. It also allows universities to set national standards for specialist training, and because of the economies of scale, it's a big time and cost saver for the universities. Now, over the past few years, the CMSA has evolved from being principally an examining body to seeking to fulfill its founding objectives that include promoting ethical standards and professional conduct for the benefit of humanity and promoting the honor of the medical and dental profession. This has included transformation of the CMSA, becoming involved with advocacy, building alliances with sister colleges, creating an educational platform, and establishing a new scientific journal. The recent leadership of the CMSA actively transformed the organization with a focus on gender and race of its leadership, making examinations fairer, making examinations and admission ceremonies more accessible, such as this here today, and making, to quote our immediate past president, Professor Flavio Senkubuge, the CMSA a people's college. Some key transformation milestones that have been achieved in the past few years include that Professor Senkubuge was elected the first black female president of the CMSA in 2019. 66% of our senators are of color, and 55% of senators are female, and 29% of our colleges are led by female presidents. And Mrs. Yolokazi Kanzi was appointed the first black academic registrar of the CMSA. And for these transformation efforts, the CMSA was very pleased to receive the Standard Bank Top Gender Empowered Company Award in 2022. To ensure inclusivity, the CMSA now has 8 examination centers around the country, including 3 centers in the Eastern Cape, has opened regional offices, and is holding admission ceremonies at 5 different centers, including MTHATHA, to make it possible for candidates, for families, and faculty to join in the celebrations. And there's been a complete redesign of the CMSA examinations to ensure equity for candidates. And this has led to improved pass rates while adhering to international best practice and without compromising standards. In relation to advocacy, the CMSA has made public pronouncements about equitable vaccine access, about strengthening occupational health systems in the post-COVID-19 era, about foreign recruitment of African healthcare workers, and only last week the CMSA raised concerns about the orthopedic trauma service at Livingston Hospital with the National and the Eastern Cape Departments of Health. The CMSA is a national body with representation of all medical and dental specialties and has exceptional expertise among its membership. I therefore believe it critical that our government engages the CMSA when deliberating about the shape and the future of our healthcare system. The CMSA has also been forging alliances with sister colleges in low and middle income countries. And as we have very similar challenges around training and healthcare, but also to finding solutions to such challenges. The CMSA recently attended a joint meeting with the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Pakistan. It also established it is establishing the Alliance of Surgical Colleges of Africa with the West African College of Surgeons and the College of Surgeons of East, Central, and Southern Africa, that jointly will represent 37 countries in sub-Saharan Africa and will therefore speak with a powerful, unified voice to advance surgical training and services in Africa. The CMSA also recently convened the International Medical Education Leaders Forum that brought together senior leaders from Africa, from Pakistan, and from Canada. From an educational perspective, the CMSA is partnering with our universities to establish an online educational platform for you, our candidates, and is rolling out our diplomas to the rest of Africa to improve healthcare on our continent. The CMSA is also establishing its own high-quality, peer-reviewed medical and dental scientific journal to provide an opportunity for you to publish your MA dissertations and other research. The cost to authors to publish research has become prohibitively expensive and discriminates against authors who cannot afford article processing charges. So the CMSA is therefore establishing a journal fund to assist authors who are not financially supported by the institutions and to ensure that the ability to pay is never a barrier to sharing research. And for the CMSA, this is an important matter of social justice. However, today we are gathered not to speak about the CMSA, but to celebrate the successful conclusion of your diploma, specialist, or subspecialist training. As you are joined here by your family, your friends, and colleagues, it's time to reflect on your specialization journey and the sacrifices made through working long hours and studying late into the night and over weekends. However, I am confident that every sacrifice you have made will be worth it. So enjoy today's celebrations, and may your loved ones also enjoy celebrating this special occasion with you. Because without their support, we know that none of what you have achieved would have been possible. Tonight, or today, we also celebrate your teachers, our universities, and our teaching hospitals for giving you the opportunity to acquire your specialized knowledge and skills. And we also acknowledge the CMSA for presenting an examination platform for our universities to examine their candidates to ensure that they can safely enter specialized practice. We acknowledge the incredible voluntary commitment of the elected CMSA leadership, that's our senators, our college presidents, and our council members, and of course all of our examiners. We also wish to say a special thank you to our CMSA staff, and especially to our CEO, Professor Eric Buch, our Executive Director, Education and Assessment, Professor Vanessa Birch, and our Academic Registrar, Ms. Yolokazi Kanzi. I'd now like to invite Professor Kishe to say a few words of welcome, if you will. Thank you.
Allow me, Program Director, to recognize the Office of the Honorable MSc, the Eastern Cape Department of Health, represented today by the Acting MSc, DDG Dr. Kamlashe, the Chief of Staff, Mrs. Piliswan Zemande, you just behind me, the HPCSA President, Professor Johan, the Professor Simon Namutandani, also from HPCSA, Acting Registrar, Advocate Sipeko, distinguished guests, all behind me, all the guests that are here, and most importantly, today's graduates, their families, relatives, and friends, good morning. Thank you, President, for outlining to us the history of CMSA as Walter Sisulu University. I'm standing here on behalf of the institution, representing the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs and Research, Professor Mashudu Davana Maselesele, who unfortunately could not be with us this morning. CMSA, office bearers, and the Senate, as Walter Sisulu University, we are very excited and very proud that you have decided to bring this occasion to our institution. I know that you will be going to other provinces, but there will be no other province that will be associated with the legends as this university. Maybe if you don't understand what do I mean by that, we are named after Tata Walter Sisulu. We call ourselves Iziko lika Xhamela. Where are we? We are in the Nelson Mandela Drive. The whole street moving down is Nelson Mandela Drive. In which local municipality? In King Sabata Dalindyebo local municipality, which is of course in OR Tambo District Municipality. So we are proud of that as an institution. I have already thanked CMSA for choosing us as Walter Sisulu as a host. We know Professor Mazwai can elaborate further that we are the first institution to train medical doctors on problem-based learning. Other universities are following us, and we know we have produced good and best doctors, not only who come to study here, but those who are born here, like the famous Dr. Cmsa Jilata, her home just across the fence here. I will not mention all of them, but there are many which show how we are as this institution. When I look at the graduates, I was worried when I was in the executive dining hall. I looked around and started counting the number of females. And I was sort of skeptical to say this profession seems to be more for males. But now, when I'm looking at the graduates, I'm very, very excited. I see that the majority are females, which means gone are the days when such professions were said to be men or male-dominated. We do have female doctors. There's nothing, as I do not like much, I'm saying it with my doctor behind me, to go to a male gyno. But I do go. Now I'm happy that females are coming into field. The president has said it is not just about graduation. It is about celebrating your successes. Successes which are a result of your dedication. I know as a student, you sacrifice a lot of things. As lecturers, even say at times, you have to sacrifice even the funerals, family funerals, except your own, because for your own funeral, you'll have to be there. I'm not here to say much, but I want to say what has happened today to bring this to Walter Sisulu University is in line with our vision. I know these doctors are not writing on paper. I have a son-in-law. At times when I get nice pens here at Walter Sisulu, I want to give him. He said, no, Mom, don't worry, we no longer use pens. We use technology. We are a technology-infused African university. You will be seeing that in other doctors that are produced from this university and these graduates today. What has happened to us is indeed in pursuit of our slogan. Our slogan is in pursuit of excellence. You have displayed excellence by achieving what you have achieved. I know I'm not in the field, but I've heard that it's not something easy. But you have committed, you are dedicated, you told yourselves that you are going to fly high, you are going to make it. With those few words, feel free. Parents, relatives, it's all because of your support. It's all because of the work that you have done to make sure that even if some of you are not educated, but to make sure that your own children are educated. We could spend a day talking about that because I have no doubt that most of us here are coming from families, humble beginnings, where the families have been looking at you today to be financial providers. And as financial providers, you are contributing to the economy of this country in terms of the health profession. Keep up the good work. Cmsa officers, Senate, colleagues from WSU, we do also have our registrar to show that this is very, very important for the institution. Families, friends, I also see the babies who may be here because of their mothers and fathers. You are welcome to Izikwaligata to Kamela. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for those wonderful words of welcome. I just ask our immediate past president, Professor Flavia Senkabuge, to give you a special gift from the college. I now have the honor and privilege to introduce our invited speaker, Professor Mthunzi Nsilwane. Professor Nsilwane is the chairman of orthopedics at the University of Pretoria, or should I say the recent chairman of the orthopedics at the University of Pretoria. However, I know his heart beats firmly here in the Eastern Cape. He was born in Fort Beaufort and matriculated at the Mzomle High School in Mnamsane. He graduated in medicine at the University of Natal in 1980 and was admitted as a fellow of the College of Orthopedics of the Cmsa in 1988, following which he was appointed as lecturer at the University of Natal. He worked as an orthopedic consultant at King Edward VIII and King George V hospitals in Durban, where he first learned the art and science of spinal surgery. He subsequently traveled to the UK, where he trained in a spinal unit at the Institute of Orthopedics in Stanmore in London, and obtained an MSc in orthopedics from the University of London. He wanted to continue with higher qualifications in London, but could not resist the euphoria that surrounded Nelson Mandela's release and returned to South Africa in 1990. Professor Nsalwani then started a private practice in Port Elizabeth in 1992 and then became the head of orthopedics and spine services at Livingston Hospital. He was subsequently appointed professor and chair of orthopedics at the University of Pretoria in 2010, from which he has just retired this year. Forever a scholar, he was awarded a PhD in orthopedics in 2022 on the subject of immune factors in the spread of tuberculosis of the spine, with most of the data for the study being collected from the Bedford Orthopedic Hospital right here in MTHATHA. I've gotten to know Professor Nsalwani through the Cmsa, where he has represented the College of Orthopedics on Senate since 2012. He has chaired the Education and Credentials Committee of the Cmsa since 2019. Now, this is a key committee as it deals with complex examination-related matters, including legal appeals from unhappy candidates. Professor Nsalwani is a highly principled colleague and has led this committee with great wisdom and with distinction. He's also been a great mentor to me, and I often look to his guidance for complex decisions in the college. I therefore greatly look forward to his presentation today. Professor Nsalwani.
Thanks, President Johan. Greetings to the President of the College of Medicine, Professor Johan Fagan, to the Vice Presidents, Professor Koto and Professor Mashlangu, to the past Presidents of the College of Medicine, Professor Butumbulizo Mazwai, and Professor Flavia Sebunkuche. I'm going to greet the Eastern Cape Deputy Director of Health Services, Dr. Klamlashe, the President of Health Professions Council of South Africa, Professor Nematandani, the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences at Waterhouse Sisulu, Professor Tozama Dubula, the leaders at WSU in various departments and leadership positions, the heads of departments at WSU, distinguished guests of the CMSA, senators and office bearers of the College of Medicine, parents, spouses and relatives and children of the graduates, and of course our special greetings to the graduates assembled here today as being here. It's a singularly great honor for me to be asked to address the admission ceremony of the College of Medicine. I don't think anybody ever thought that somebody from a Bofolo in Yamageza could actually come and address such an audacious meeting of academics. The Eastern Cape is my home. I've spent about 19 years of my work as an orthopedic surgeon in Port Elizabeth. And if you add the other year I spent as Sishlema Kewan as an intern, so 20 years working at home. Now, you are here to honor these graduates who today are here to reap the fruit of their hard work and sweat, which they had to do this while busy looking after sick patients. They spend many hours of hard reading in the night, while at the same time having to do emergency surgical operations in the middle of the night. We have done all this at a particularly difficult time in our country, which none of us had experienced while preparing for this exam. I'm not talking about COVID-19. I'm talking about this new frustrating evil that has been unleashed onto us called a load shedding. This is the biggest curse this country has had after apartheid. I can't imagine how you studied when suddenly in the middle of your reading, the lights go out. You take a short nap and set your clock to wake you up in 2 hours because that's what the app told you. You wake up, still no lights because somebody has stolen the cable that supplies the lights. And you did this despite all this. I think you must stand up and congratulate yourselves and make a loud noise for that. What you've achieved could not have been possible without the support of your spouses, your parents, and other members of the family who did everything else that you were supposed to be doing at home, giving you enough time to study for these exams. Please make a big noise for your parents and everything else. Lastly, your teachers, represented here by the stage party of the College of Medicine, they've sacrificed a lot by staying in academic teaching hospitals to make sure that you become good candidates for this exam that we've just passed. Please congratulate them as well. You're so privileged to have trained in a university with a great history, associated with big names in the history of our country, as it has been explained to here just now, where those names come from. Actually, I first heard about this name from Professor Butlizo Mazwai in the last graduation ceremony. I didn't realize that this university has got such many big names behind it. Now, where do you go to from here? This qualification from the College of Medicine Australia will open many doors for you. Some of you will be specialists with big names in big cities and in smaller towns. Some of you will be heads of departments in hospitals and universities. Indeed, some of you will go to start new hospitals. Some of you will go out to the countryside and establish well-run primary care medical services with your diplomas. And some of you will come back to an institution like WSU to pursue something like a PhD or something like that. In all these endeavors, there will be a lot of obstacles that will stop you from achieving your goal. If you thought load shedding was frustrating, wait and see what's coming. But I'll tell you a story that may encourage you during those down moments. The story of the establishment of the Faculty of Health Sciences in UNITRA, now WSU, is a story of sheer guts and perseverance against all odds. The story is told to me by the founding dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Professor MTHATHA. The idea came from the then president of the Transkei, Paramount Chief Katie Matanzi Mthembu Mkhulu. He said he wanted to have medical school in his country so that doctors can be trained in the country and serve the community, which at the time must have been struggling with health services. I'm not sure if we're any better actually, but it will be for different reasons. That time they simply didn't have doctors. This idea of medical school is nothing new. We saw it in a lot of countries in Africa, like in Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana. Establishing of medical schools was the first thing most of them did after independence. What a noble idea to have a medical school in our own homeland. Now, Katie mentioned this to Professor Mamtlaba Mkwena in 1983. Now, this was very fertile ground for Katie to have planted the seed on. There were other people that the president could speak to about the idea, but they all thought it would be too difficult or impossible to accomplish. So people thought it was impossible to have a university here. Well, a medical school. A university was there already. She took it with great enthusiasm, probably because she herself could not be trained in South Africa. There was only the University of Natal, with West taking only a few black students at the time. She did medicine in Stockholm and went on to qualify as a pulmonologist. She returned to MTHATHA in 1980. She knew how it was like to go far to study medicine when it could have been studied in her doorsteps. We know apartheid was bad. A lot of us hated the homeland system and their independence. We, however, have been very fortunate that at the time of independence in 1994, we did not throw away the bathwater that was the homeland system together with the baby that was this medical school. So the founding dean ran with this idea, as I say, with great enthusiasm. I want to talk more about the obstacles she had, as told to me, the discouragements and the abuse she went through while trying to establish this now well-established medical school. She described that the idea was to form, as we've just said, a problem-based, community-based education medical school to talk to the needs of the community, which idea has actually been embraced by a lot of countries overseas. Now, the obstacles. She tells me that the first salve of attacks came from the medical community. The medical profession, especially students in established universities, protested against this idea. The main cause of this was that the medical profession misinterpreted the idea of community-based medicine. There was a widely publicized view that this medical school was for Xhosa-speaking people. The language of instruction would be Xhosa. It was to teach diseases that were endemic to people in this part of the country. That is kwashiorkor, or tuberculosis and such. Obviously, medical students at the time thought that this is not a medical school, and this KD, Klabam Kwena madness, had to be stopped. I was a registrar at the time at the University of Natal. We even mocked the idea of medicine in Xhosa amongst us, imagining what some of the medical terms would be in Xhosa. One of us in our group actually said, hey guys, what will the incomplete abortion be called? And some for yeah, but look She goes on to tell me that there was even a professor from one of the big universities in this country who wrote an opinion piece in the SAMJ talking about how bad the idea of medical school was in the Transkei. He wrote that health educators could be taught to handle rural medicine. You remember earlier there was a course at the University of Fort Hare where such health professionals were actually taught. But most of the graduates of that course ended up doing some quasi-medical work, like counting tablets in a district pharmacy. And this certainly was not her idea of medical training. How was she going to have a health sciences faculty in isolation from other faculties? This was a big headache for her. It would have made some of us to stop the whole idea. When she came back from Stockholm, she was a medical superintendent at MTHATHA General Hospital. When the talks of this medical school started, I left MTHATHA General Hospital because of this medical school idea. Where was she going to get from doctors to teach? In addition to that, a lot of doctors that she knew and thought would be able to help were just not willing to be part of this non-starter. She had to get doctors from other countries in Africa to start this medical school. Of great help was the anatomist from Makerere University in Uganda, who went on to work in Maseru. I think it was Professor Boguma. He was a great solid pillar in establishing this medical school. There were a few other doctors from the countries in Africa. After talking to her, now for the first time, I understood why there were no South African trained doctors in MTHATHA. We always say that this medical school is made of foreigners. Now I understood for the first time. Her troubles did not end there. She had to get accommodation for all these foreign doctors. Which dean ever tried to look for accommodation for a doctor being employed in the hospital? When I went to Pretoria for the first time in a town completely foreign to me, I had to look for accommodation myself. I wish she was there to look for me. She tells me one time she had to get a friend that had another house in Tata, asked him to lease out the house so that she could accommodate all these foreign doctors. Even at this university itself, from other faculties, there were senior staff in admin whom she thought could help with some of the logistics, but they were not interested. Ironically, some of their children came on to register in this medical school and later became doctors. When she started, there was no budget, nothing for the medical school. They had to ask for money from each of the government departments. You know that each year departments return money to Treasury. It used to happen also here in Transkei. Her troubles in forming this medical school even started when the idea was introduced to Parliament. So she was asked to address Parliament about this medical school. Well, one of the things she told them was that we need to get human bodies to start anatomy. And there was a big uproar. Oh, nifuna ukutyhuthula imizimba yethu ngoku. And that's what they understood about dissection, that was the parliamentarians. She persevered. She went on to look for advice from universities in the country and other countries. The universities, some of the universities in the country were very supportive to her curriculum, which she had laid out after discussion with a lot of other universities. She got cadavers from the University of Natal and transported them to MTHATHA using the transport of a local funeral undertaker. She got the support from the Dean of the University of Natal, Professor Curriculum, she taught us pathology, Professors Duplessis and Professor McGregor from Wits, Professor Samson from Medunsa. And in her university, she's got a lot of support from Professor Jafta, the late Professor Jafta, and Professor Nkuhlu, who described her as a brave, determined woman. Finally, in 1985, the first students were admitted. The medical school has opened opportunities to many people who will otherwise never have seen the door of a medical school. The current dean of this medical school is a good example, that's Professor Dubola. You wouldn't have seen a medical school, you have seen maybe seen a witchcraft school. The university has produced many doctors serving the whole country, not only the Xhosa-speaking part of the country. I look at the records of our examinations office in the colleges of medicine to see the number of specialists and subspecialists we have qualified through this university. In the 10-year period ending the second semester exams in 2022, we'll qualify from this university 270 specialists, that is fellows, 97 diplomas and 8 subspecialists. The university is now doing particularly well in the exams. Since the 2020 exams, the university has been consistently qualifying more than 20 specialists per exam. That's 40 specialists per year. The highest number was 30 specialists during the first semester 2021 exam. It was a difficult exam for orthopedics. What is even more impressive is that the average during the last 5 exams has been 73% in qualification. That's really good. It means that if you are in this university, you've got 73% of chances of becoming a specialist. 97 diplomas have been in pediatrics. Okay. So as you can see, we're producing specialists in Tata, East London, and Port Elizabeth through the vision of KD fulfilled by Professor MTHATHA. The vision of the founding dean was to have doctors in all the villages in the Transkei. The teachers in the university have multiplied that vision. We now have specialists of many kinds qualifying from this university. So as you start your next chapter in your career, have the dream like KD did, but there'll be no Professor MTHATHA to carry it through. You have to do it yourself. To make it easier for you, I asked her how she got the strength to do all this against such adversity. She replied that there are qualities that you need to succeed. She said you must be determined. She said you must have perseverance. You must not be discouraged by people, especially those who do not know what you are trying to do. Surround yourself with people that will support your goals. Have no fears. Be strong. Have trust in your abilities. And whatever you do, do it well. Khumbuza intshumayelo, isahluko sesithoba, ivesi yeshumi. Yonke into isandla sakho esifumana siyenza, yenze ngamandla akho onke, ngoba ukho kwenza na ucinga na ukwazi apho uyakhona kwelabafileyo. Now you have got this qualification. We expect the whole country to be richer. Yes, we would like you to go further, to further your knowledge and education by going to other centers in the country and indeed outside the country. But please come back. Bring your services back, not only to MTHATHA, but the rest of the countryside. We would like cataracts to be removed in Matwaleni. We would like broken bones to be repaired in Tafalofefe. We would like children in Sulenkama not to die because the specialist was far away in MTHATHA. Lastly, when you enter this exam, we gave you some documents to read through to sit for the exam. One of those documents is called Procedures for Candidates, which has a paragraph that says, must listen to this, conduct of candidates. Examination candidates are also expected to conduct themselves ethically, honestly, and with integrity as responsible members of Cmsa academic community. We don't ask you to sign this, we just ask you to read it. Maybe you should ask them to sign it, Mrs. Kanzi. We have no doubt about the academic knowledge you have. Where this honesty, integrity, and ethics lack is when we have seen a lot of problems that are harming this country. I've spoke about the darkness, load shedding. It comes from this honesty, integrity, and ethics that is lacking. I work at the Road Accident Fund a lot of times. I see it. Orthopedic services in Port Elizabeth have collapsed. I'm not sure whether it's also because of this. It's worth thinking about. We as graduates of the College of Medicine must not lose these qualities. That is ethics, honesty, and integrity. Go out there and be good light and good hope to the sick. Treat patients and community ethically with honesty and integrity. Best wishes for your next adventure. Thank you.
When I introduced Professor Silvani, I spoke about him being a wise man and a principled man, and that came through in your presentation beautifully. As I said, he's been a wonderful mentor to me and to many of us, and thank you for that absolutely wonderful presentation. We're now going to proceed with the admission of our new fellows, our diplomates, and our certificates by examination. Thank you.
I now proceed with the introduction of the diplomates, fellows, and certificates by examination. Mr. President, I present the following successful candidates for admission to the higher diploma in family medicine of the College of Family Physicians of South Africa. Adeniyi Oluwasian Ogunjali. Diploma in Anesthetics of the College of Anesthetists of South Africa. Sandisiwe Mabovula. Pumlani Maqoma. Nokuthula Matu. Siphosihle Msuthu. Mcebisi Robert Mzazela. Sinesipho Mdedwa. Thobela Nogela. Odwa Archibald Ntwanambi. Luthando Changana. Diploma in Child Health of the College of Pediatricians of South Africa, Ethan Lee Chilang. Diploma in HIV Management of the College of Family Physicians of South Africa, Mzomhle Kiza. Wogalethu Makubalo. Sisipho Ngumane. Vuyelwa Queenie Kwesha. Diploma in Mental Health of the College of Psychiatrists of South Africa, Indira Asanda Nolusindiso Butau. Avuyile Kawekazi Precious Gineto. Diploma in Obstetrics of the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of South Africa, Mileka Andisiwe Kopoto. Qaqamba Mpotulo. Phumlani Ngweniso. Diploma in Primary Emergency Care of the College of Emergency Medicine of South Africa, Bonke Mbombo. Mr. President, I present the following successful candidates for admission to the Fellowship of the College of Anesthetists of South Africa. Nondwe Nkonko. Abongile Sukwana. Fellowship of the College of Dermatologists of South Africa, Stephen Phumelele Phumlani Konyana. Part B of the final of the Fellowship of the College of Family Physicians of South Africa, Philippa Scotcher. Fellowship of the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of South Africa, Gilbert Animana. Rich Gabalin Dalmasio. Ngunza Kamba. To be wooded by the wife, Dr. N. Lomo Luvuyo Matikizela. Tandekile Goodman Mava. Mawande Maibenye. Yonela Nkonzo. Tsepo Patrick Sitlaba. Viwe Soto Mboja. Part 2 of the Fellowship of the College of Ophthalmologists of South Africa, Anele Songezo Daimani. Fellowship of the College of Pediatricians of South Africa, Charmaine Pamela Kihirwa Asimwe. Neziswa Marafungana. Lusanda Khalakhala. Fellowship of the College of Pathologists of South Africa, Chemical Pathology. Sinazo Cimbi. Fellowship of the College of Surgeons of South Africa, Sijabulile Cassius Sosibo. Mr. President, I now present the following successful candidates for admission to various certificates. These are specialists who have now subspecialized to become super specialists. Certificate in Cardiology of the College of Pediatricians of South Africa, Luzuko Popochana. Certificate in Critical Care of the College of Pediatricians of South Africa, Nandipa Mizpa Sotobe Mbana. Certificate in Nephrology of the College of Physicians of South Africa, Lungiswa Stella Ntingi Nkonzombi.
I'd like to invite Dr. Tamlashe, who's the Deputy Director of Health of the Eastern Cape, to congratulate the new diplomates and the fellows and certificates. Thank you very much.
Program Director, Walter Sisulu, University Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs and Research, Prof. Davana Maselesele, the College of Medicine of South Africa President, Professor Fagan, College of Medicine of South Africa immediate past President, Prof. Senkubuge, College of Medicine of South Africa, CEO Professor Buch, Prof. Tubula, Walter Sisulu Faculty of Health Sciences Dean, College of Medicine of South Africa Honorary Chairperson, Professor Ngelwane, College of Medicine of South African officers and Senate members, Professor Nimatandane, President of HPCSA, our VIPs, the candidates being admitted, and their happy families here, DTGs, GMs, CEOs and of Central and Tertiary Regional Hospitals present here. Good afternoon to all of you. It's very interesting that when you have order these days in a particular space of life, the last thing you need in that area is a politician. If you go to America, there is order, but there's also chaos. If you go to the far end of the world, Ukraine and Russia, there may have been order, but there's also a war that is going on. But one thing we must always recognize and understand that most pediatricians in the room and obstetricians delivered those politicians. And they will still deliver more politicians coming through. So there's a lot of work pediatricians and neonatologists must do it very early to fix in the future politicians. Yeah, also very interesting is that there's always been in history a very strong association between politics and medicine. I think that's well recorded by historians and by everyone else. It's no coincidence that the college was founded in 1955, the same year the Freedom Charter was adopted. So these are not just coincidences. These are created by higher powers, and they are meant to deliver a better world to society. I hope all those of Christian faith went to church this Easter weekend to rejuvenate their souls and faith in our Lord Savior, Jesus Christ. And for our Muslim friends, the blessed month of Ramadan is almost over. We hope it has been a good spiritual week of fasting, connecting, and worshiping Allah. We also wish our Jewish friends a happy Passover, which ends tomorrow. For Christians, Easter weekend is a time of great significance. It's a time we remember the sacrifice and resurrection of Jesus Christ, a time to renew one's faith and to come together in community of fellowships. However, because of high vehicle traffic volumes on our roads, some lives were lost due to a number of reasons, and Professor Ngelwane is here. I'm sure they're going to keep him for another month before he goes back. A lot of bones were broken over Easter, Prof. You've already made a reference to that. Every year as a government, we always hope for a fatality-free Easter season, but sadly, some people have lost their lives. We send our deepest condolences to the families of those who lost loved ones and who perished on our roads during Easter weekend. May their souls rest in eternal peace. We are also greatly honored to have been invited to this auspicious occasion. Mine is a very small and yet a very difficult task. I've been asked to deliver congratulatory remarks to those candidates. I will try to keep my remarks as concise as possible. Prof. Ngelwane has already said you may be remembered as load shedding specialists. That distinguishes you from everyone else because quite often, he may have mentioned load shedding, but when he started narrating about the challenges during their own era of training, you may begin to say it was actually worse than load shedding. When he started narrating how the university and the medical school here was established. COVID aftermath is on us, and I want to call on all health professionals to begin not to forget that our workforce is wounded. Some people say it's over because the caseload is down, but the psychotrauma and psychofatigue among health professionals is actually at its peak right now. And we call on everyone, including society, to begin to understand it's time to protect the health system. Our health professionals and the health workforce in general are very vulnerable. And we are seeing the signs. I think we made reference to something in Livingston, in Port Elizabeth. These are not robots, these are human beings. They have blood and they breathe air. They need a rest, they need They've lost their loved ones. They've lost their patients in numbers that are unimagined. So that trauma is there, and we as a fraternity have to do a lot in order to support each other. High trauma levels in South Africa at alarmingly high levels. The climate change is on us, disrupting our services. KZN and close about here in Port St. John's, we know that services were disrupted and they continue to be disrupted. There's war in Ukraine, I've said, and I know that these are coming through as landmarks and as punctuation of your achievement as health professionals. So you are going to be very different from other physicians, obstetricians. Despite all the doom and gloom, we must understand South Africa works. This country has been through the West, and it has to do more to enjoy. We warmly welcome the decision by College of Medicine of South Africa to bring admission ceremonies to this part of Eastern Cape. It's a real honor. Although it took 66 years, I think it was said again, to the College of Medicine to bring admission ceremony to the Eastern Cape last year, we are thrilled as home of legends, and we are very grateful to the leadership of the college. We'll continue to support the College of Medicine of South Africa initiatives to grow medical specialist segment for rural South Africa. That's a noble mission we cannot afford as government to fail. Eastern Cape is a home of legends, not only in the fight against unjust and vile apartheid system, but we are a home of legends in the health sector as well. I'm not going to repeat a lot. Prof. Ngalwane has made a reference and mentioned names, that led in this sector a long time ago. To mention great minds like Dr. A.B. Kuma, Hamilton Naki, first cardiac transplant technicians. There was a cardiologist here, who's just graduated. And Sister Kolega Tunyiswa, whom will be laying to rest in Kabeja on the 24th of April, that is next week. Doranginza, Cecilia Makiwane, Albertina Sisulu, Professor Pepeta, all are among many of our health legends. Together, we have paved the way for future healthcare workers like we see here today. Their contribution to the health sector can never be understated, nor will it ever be forgotten. May their souls continue to rest in perfect peace. Indeed, this shows that Eastern Cape is not just the epicenter of leadership in general, but an epicenter of health leadership in South Africa. As we celebrate the achievement of those being admitted here today, we must always remember April will forever be a painful month in our nation's history. On Monday, we commemorated on the 30th anniversary of the assassination of our People's General Secretary, Comrade Chris Hani, who was cowardly gunned down on the 10th of April in 1993. Some of you may not have been born, some of the graduates here, I noticed that. I solely remember his speech about HIV in early days, despite not being a health professional. I hope some of you will find the speech and you will understand the political orientation in South Africa about the challenges we are confronted with. Long before load shedding, HIV was a disaster for this country, and it continues to be a challenge. Solomon Mahlangu, a brave young man, was hanged to death on the 6th of April 1979 for demanding freedom. 2 weeks after Chris Hani was murdered, we also lost one of the gallant freedom fighters, President O.R. Tambo, who hails 200 kilometers from here, from Bizana. It was on the 6th of April, ironically, in 1652, that Jan van Riebeeck landed in South Africa. There's something about April which I think humanity must begin to remember and observe. Yeah, it was also celebrating on the 27th of April, as the day of brutal apartheid regime was overcome and millions of South Africans attained their right to vote for a democratic society. We are confronted by a myriad of challenges as government, a lot of them emanating from rampant corruption, and which cuts across all the sectors. And I just wish and hope that the medical sector will continue to observe its high standard of ethics and stay away from such. Prof. Ngalwane spoke about work and road accident fund and some of the things that are done by health professionals. And we want to talk to you and say, please stay away from corrupt activities. It's not about yourself, it's about killing the future generations of the same profession. There are many other things and shenanigans that are happening, and We just don't want to hear that health professionals are involved. We are very sure that South Africa will emerge from the crisis that it is confronted with. But what is clear is that there will be no restoration of the past. Instead, there will be a reset of the future. Change has to happen. Change has to happen both in terms of relations between public and private health sector. Change has to happen at the speed at which you respond to sick people. We have backlogs. We have all kinds of crises in the health system in South Africa. So we need to think differently at the rate at which we respond to sick people in South Africa. Technology is here to enable us to respond better and different and even more accurately. The change has to happen in the cost of healthcare. We are running a very unsustainable health system. You know the amount of billions that we spend as a country, both public and private, but we do not have corresponding quality of clinical results or medical outcomes when it comes that justify that expenditure. So that change has got to be led by young professionals like yourselves. Begin to expose yourselves in other areas of health economics, other areas of management. I think Dr. Scotcher is here. We're already managing Pisho Hospital together. I never knew she was a family physician. When I went there, I actually thought she was a CEO, actually managing a crisis at Pisho Hospital. So Dr. Scotcher, can you give her a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to celebrate. We congratulate everyone being admitted here today because pursuing an academic career in an overburdened health system like ours is not something to be taken for granted. It is great dedication and hard work. When you look back into how you studied at night, again with load shedding, and of course with hardly any time to study, it's certainly no mean feat that you have achieved, but you did it. Each and every one of you must be proud of your great achievement. You would be mistaken if you think that your achievement is yours alone. Your families and partners have been with you all the way, supporting and encouraging you throughout this journey. We also salute these families. Having more specialists bodes well for government's plans for NHI. Without these specialists, it will be difficult to create a sustainable system in the midst of the challenges which are now beginning to be global. We also urge South African health professionals. I'm happy Prof. Buch mentioned earlier on that they were part of a ceremony in Pakistan. That's highly encouraged by government. For a long time, the politicians, who is ourselves, have balkanized the whole world and divided the continent into states and created tensions. And I think we have seen what we sometimes do to patients coming from Zimbabwe as politicians. So we don't want such things to happen anymore. And I'm very happy that you are now beginning to globalize, especially our young health professionals, that they're exposed to Africa and they know what is going on and what it is to operate under different socio-economic and social conditions. It's something really as government would love to encourage and to make sure that we support all your endeavors as a college as you try to expand the expertise of South African medical fraternity. Furthermore, the department put a legal framework, for it to be able to assume the structured approach of registered training. An MOA and bilateral agreements with WUSU, as well as an MLA with the Western Cape, is in existence. I think at this point, a lot of your predecessors, Professor Mkize, Professor Mfenyana, Professor Mazwai, who's here, Dr. Krita, Prof. Dubula now, who is actually here, and our diligent ECDOH team led by Mr. Nick Ntswane put a lot of effort in making sure these things happen. We know that I was in Northwest not long ago. There are challenges in the relationship between government and obviously and the training platform. So Eastern Cape is doing well in this regard, and we will continue to commit that these actually results come through as a result of this structured relationship. The cooperation with Western Cape, Gauteng, KZN, Free State is a very valuable partnership which assists us as the Eastern Cape to build our own discipline. Professor Lazarus is here, Professor Mta, and again, retired Professor Smith put all these relationships together, and we really appreciate the work that they did, which gives all the good results. We are concerned that despite being a curable disease, we have again TB remaining a #1 killer. We must not forget. And TB, I believe, affects, as a politician, I don't know medicine, it affects any organ in your body. Whether you're an obstetrician or a dermatologist, here they are cardiologists, I believe TB has no respect of any part of the body or human body. So we must understand this month is World TB Day, and it is a moment for us to remember that amidst all the problems that we are confronted, TB is still a #1 killer. And the situation is even made worse. I must talk to the families here and leave the graduates. By the rising incidence of non-communicable disease, high, bantu bakuthi iswekile, intontoni ezingadibaniyo nezifuba zenkomo. Please, let's do less and less. Or Kentucky, or Nandosi, I'm in a safe space here. I can mention those because this is a consulting room. All the things here are confidential. So let's do less and less of those. Abantwana benu abazulala. Because if you are stroke, let's do less of those fatty stuff and junk food. Let's eat healthy. They already have enough problems for us coming from taverns, drunk and crashing cars. They don't sleep. They need you to protect them as human beings. So society has a role, a big role to protect, medical profession and the health system in general. Not long ago, I think 13 years ago, let me start there. 13 years ago, I was in Northern California. That's the first time I heard the term load shedding. It's not new to me, it's new to many South Africans. They only had power for 6 hours a day in Northern California. And they adapted to it. And unfortunately, society, because of the increasing demand and needs and abnormal behavior that has created the climate chaos, we have to adapt and to do with less. It's very strangely, met a CEO of this water board, Amatola Water, and he said something very strange. South Africans complain when we do water shedding for 3 hours a day. But in fact, when we have water all the time, they don't keep their taps open. Their taps are actually open for 3 hours in a day out of 24 hours. So as a society, it's time for change. It's time to consume less. It's time to spend less. It's time to expect less from the world that we are destroying as human beings and improve our behavior. The friendly world will be good again. And South Africa is a working country. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you for a wonderful presentation. And with leadership like that, we should all be working in the Eastern Cape. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. But I now have the pleasure of welcoming our new graduates to our specialist community. This is indeed a time for great celebration, and I now give our graduates the opportunity to stand up, to make a big noise, and to acknowledge your family and your teachers. So up you get, and you can shout and scream as much as you want. But my plea is for you to all remain in Africa, where your services are really desperately needed. Practicing specialized medicine in low and middle income countries can be challenging and at times quite frustrating, but it can be professionally highly rewarding. With less than 5% of patients in Africa having ready access to safe, affordable surgery, this is where you can have the biggest impact as an anesthetist or a surgeon, or indeed in any specialist field. I ask that you continue to read and to conduct research, to grow and to broaden your minds and to share your knowledge and skills by remaining involved in teaching programs, even as unpaid honorary consultants. I ask that you support the Cmsa, which is such an important national and international institution for specialized training and assessment, not only through your continued membership, but also through the Young Specialist Forum. What the Young Specialist Forum presents an opportunity for young specialists, such as yourselves, to mentor registrars, to develop online preparatory educational material for diploma and registrar candidates, and to serve as a bridge between the Cmsa and our registrar community. I ask that you take care of yourself and your loved ones, look after your physical and mental well-being, be kind to yourself, take time out and be present at important family events. And finally, I ask that in a country with such inequality, poverty, and hunger, that you remain humble, that you remain grounded, and that you never lose your humanity. I now ask that we all stand to sing the national anthem. By the power vested in me on behalf of the Senate, I now resolve the proceedings of the CMSA. I request that we all stand while the stage party leaves the hall, followed by our graduates and our medalists. Thank you.